Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Twice as Lively with Ken Heckenlively. Today, we're going to go into the writer's life, and we're going to answer that question, which is asked so often, which is, where do writers get their ideas? Well, I can't tell you about all writers, but I can talk about myself. Some people say, that's my favorite subject. But I'll let you be the judge of that. But everybody can judge that Peet's Coffee is without a doubt the best coffee out there. And so I have my usual order, which is a cafe Americano with a little bit of room for milk and a little bit of honey, because we all need a little bit of sugar with our caffeine, don't we? Okay, here we go. No, Bob, Starbucks is not better. Starbucks is way down. No, Peet's is better. Okay, but if Starbucks did decide to sponsor my program, I would drink Starbucks, okay? Got it, Bob? Okay, thanks so much. Glad that I've got some viewers here. Okay, so it always seems that when people find out that you're a writer, they want to ask the question, what is a writer's life like? I bet it's just exciting all the time. Well, sometimes it is. Like when this week I went to a big event and they talked about how I'm going to come speak next month, and I got kind of a lot of applause. People sitting next to me said, oh, I didn't realize I was sitting next to a celebrity. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. But most of the time, it's just a bunch of work. So, for example, I have a fabulous publicity person. Her name is Kelsey. She is just wonderful. She's been with me for a long time, and she's always pitching me. And so she had pitched me to this group called Crime Reads. Is that what it is? Yeah, Crime Reads. For my new book, This Never Happened, A Call Girl in D.C. And so Crime Reads is not quite a book review place. It's talking about crime and how people get their ideas for the books that they write. And so she thought that it would be good if I wrote an essay for them about how I came to write This Never Happened. So you see, it's not quite a book review, but a question about like what in the real world interested me to write a book about a significant crime in American history. So here was the pitch that I made to Kelsey and the readers of Crime Reads. The concept of reimagining a story we once thought we knew has a great tradition in American literature. In 2024, the reading public was delighted by the appearance of James by Percival Everett, a reimagining of the Huck Finn story as told through the eyes of the slave Jim. The book went on to win the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction in 2025. The reimagining of the classic Wizard of Oz movie in the book Wicked by Gregory Maguire has been a triumph on both the page and the big screen, grossing more than $1 billion. After 22 books, mostly in the nonfiction field focusing on politics, Ken Heckenlively has done something similar with his remarkable new novel, This Never Happened, A Call Girl in D.C. Taking a story that most of the public believes it knows, the Watergate scandal of the 1970s, Heckenlively turns the story on its head, telling it from this perspective of a sexually liberated call girl who accidentally happens to get involved in a presidential scandal. The reviews for this book have been phenomenal. Then I list a couple of them. Heckenlively keeps the pages turning with brisk pacing and clever spins on hard-boiled dialogue. A spy thriller-like plan worthy of an Ian Fleming novel. The stakes are high in Ken Heckenlively's This Never Happened, but the pleasure is definitely higher. Plotting is sharp, the cast is winningly duplicitous, and the pages turn quickly, surging from one betrayal, surprise, or frisky encounter to another, all while exploring with a wink who really rules the world. Okay, so that's my pitch. So I make the pitch, Kelsey passes it along, and then they say, okay, that's great. Well, we're interested in an article like that. So what does that mean? Does that mean my job is over? No, it means my job has just begun. So now I have to write a 1,200-word essay fleshing that idea out. So what do? I get up at 5 o'clock this morning and I start writing the goddamn thing. And it actually seems to turn out pretty well. So I'm just going to show you an ad from Kirkus Reviews. So Kirkus Reviews is one of the leading book review magazines or organizations. And so here they have a really nice ad for my book, This Never Happened, A Call Girl in DC. You got some of the nice reviews. Let's see, got it there. Yes, it's right across from an exciting array of queer novels. Yeah. So there's that. Okay, so got up this morning and instead of writing in the projects I'm working on, I started to work on this essay, 1,200 words, called The Watergate Theory That Never Made It into the Movies. I thought I understood the Watergate scandal, which brought down President Nixon in August of 1974. After all, as a young boy, the televised Senate hearings had played constantly as a daily drama in my house. My parents and the country talked incessantly about it. And when, in 1976, I saw the film, All the President's Men, I thought there could be no higher calling than becoming an investigative journalist like Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein. And this was despite my parents having both supported Nixon in 1968 and 1972. After all, the two of them had met at the Republican convention in 1956, which renominated Eisenhower and Nixon. But the family discussions were never tense. I remember all of us being riveted to the story, and my parents just shaking their heads and saying, "You think you know somebody." And so I continued on with my life, getting married, having kids, and to my surprise, publishing a fair number of nonfiction books myself, focusing on government and corporate whistleblowers. But it was in the course of writing my 18th book with a former CIA officer who turned whistleblower that I found myself revisiting the Watergate story. The first oddity was the burglars themselves, the 5 men who actually broke into the Democratic National Headquarters, and their 2 handlers, G. Gordon Liddy and E. Howard Hunt. 5 of the 7 men had CIA connections. That was unusual. Another oddity was that the famed Deep Throat, the anonymous source for many of Woodward and Bernstein's tips, was later revealed to be the number 2 man at the FBI, an individual named Mark Felt. Had the break-in been a combined FBI-CIA operation designed to embarrass the Nixon White House? During the break-in, the burglars had installed listening devices on 2 phones, one belonging to the head of the Democratic National Committee, Larry O'Brien, and the other on the phone of a secretary named Ida Maxwell Wells. If you're going to engage in political surveillance, I understand tapping the phone of the head of the political opposition, but why tap a secretary's phone? Then I ran across allegations made by G. Gordon Liddy that the reason they tapped Wells's phone was their suspicion that she was the point person for a call girl ring being run out of the Democratic National Headquarters, the so-called Columbia Park call girl ring, a rogue CIA operation being run by a madam named Heidi Reekin. An account of Heidi Reekin can be found in the book White House Call Girl by Phil Sanford. Further investigation revealed that Ida Wells had sued G. Gordon Liddy twice for defamation for his call girl accusations and lost both times. Then I did a deep dive on John Dean, Nixon's Deputy Associate Attorney General and later White House counsel, who was the first to turn against Nixon. Many of the president's supporters would claim these allegations were false. The question is why a man like Dean, known for being scrupulously honest, would make such false allegations. During his time in Washington, Dean was divorcing his first wife and started dating and eventually married a woman named Maureen Mo Elizabeth Kane. In her 1975 book about Watergate, Mo, A Woman's View of Watergate, there's this passage about her future roommate, Heidi Reekin, the alleged Columbia call girl ring madam. Quote, Heidi, the friend I had stayed with in Lake Tahoe, now lived in Washington, D.C., and she had often invited me to visit her. Since Mike and I were having such a rocky time, going to visit Heidi seemed the wisest thing to do. I spent a month in Washington with Heidi and then persuaded her to drive back to California with me. Heidi was single, well-to-do, and had plenty of spare time. So we piled into her new Corvette and headed west. Does that description of a young woman in the early 1970s seem a little suspicious to you? A stylish picture of Heidi in a sable coat is included in Maureen's book, and Heidi would also serve as a bridesmaid to Maureen at her wedding to John Dean. Heidi apparently died in 1991 as a result of a drunken fall down some stairs at her mother's house in Reading, Pennsylvania. In 1987, though, Maureen Dean published a spicy novel entitled Washington Wives, with a character, Echo Bourne, who bore a suspicious resemblance to Heidi Reekin. As described on pages 18 and 19 of the book, quote, Echo Bourne was of medium height, shorter than Jan, and probably in her late 30s. Her dark print dress was understated, her gold jewelry tasteful. Over her right shoulder was draped a silk shirt in a print contrasting to the dress. Perhaps I can make things a little easier, Echo said as she exhaled. I've done business with the protocol office before, as your assistant may have mentioned. The code phrase she left with my service was that she was inquiring about a ball gown. That tells me you have a VIP who requires the services of a transvestite. In the book, Echo runs a call girl outfit, which works in collaboration with the State Department, providing sexual partners for visiting foreign dignitaries, while at the same time compiling blackmail information on politicians. Echo is the villain of the story, who unfortunately dies a grisly death at a fancy party when she's accidentally set on fire with the chafing fuel that keeps the food warm for guests. I really can't make this stuff up. This is stuff that was already out there. So when you ask the question, where do writers come up with their ideas? Well, we read a lot of shit and we listen. And when something just seems batshit crazy, we sit up and pay attention. And we say, hey, can I make a story out of these facts? Okay. The claim made about Dean's testimony is that he was being blackmailed about his wife's participation, at least for a short time, in her roommate Heidi's call girl ring operating out of the National Democratic Committee headquarters. For more background on an alternative explanation of the Watergate scandal, I read Silent Coup by Len Kolodny and Robert Getlin, Secret Agenda by Jim Hogan, Haig's Coup by Ray Locker, Tricky Dick by Roger Stone, Chaos by Tom O'Neill, Poisoner in Chief by Stephen Kinzer, and Bond of Secrecy by St. John Hunt, who is the son of E. Howard Hunt, one of the ringleaders of the Watergate burglars. These books paint a picture of President Nixon trying to do quietly what President Kennedy had been doing publicly, namely diminishing the power of the CIA and the other intelligence agencies. Was Watergate the revenge of the intelligence agencies? I can't tell you if any of that is true, nor did I feel I had enough good evidence to write a nonfiction book on the subject. While my nonfiction books may arouse controversy, they're usually backed up by 300 to 400 solid references. I don't know how solid a basis any of these claims have in reality. And yet, it was a story that wouldn't let go of me. But maybe it was better told as a fictional tale, a satire of presidential politics with echoes of what we see in today's news. As Quentin Tarantino reimagined the Manson murders in his film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I thought I might make a similar effort in fiction by reimagining the Watergate scandal, which explains my new novel, This Never Happened, A Call Girl in DC. I'll be interested to learn from readers if I succeeded in that effort. So you kind of get the idea of how we writers come up with some of our fictional ideas. We read things that happen in the real world, and then we say, I wonder if I could make that work in fiction. Now, the Watergate scandal, well known to many Americans, maybe not a lot of the younger generation, but as I was growing up, there was a general consensus about what it all meant. But in the 1980s and 1990s, some individuals started writing books which took a different approach to what happened during Watergate and a different explanation of it. And so I just wanted to spend a little bit of time going over some of those authors to whom I feel genuinely indebted, because even though This Never Happened, A Call Girl in DC is a work of fiction, I really did try to create a very believable world. And it is because these nonfiction writers attempted to tell a story that may not have yet been told. So, first up, Tricky Dick by Roger Stone. Roger Stone does a great job with this book. It's a different view of Nixon. I highly encourage that you read it. Stone is known as a big supporter of what Richard Nixon was doing. He argues that Nixon was one of our most consequential presidents, and that the overwhelming landslide that Nixon won in 1972 was proof that the people loved what he was doing, and he was undone by the deep state. You've got Haig's Coup by Ray Locker. One of the really interesting things that happens in Haig's Coup is that Locker makes the claim that Bob Woodward was actually naval intelligence, and that he, before becoming a reporter for the Washington Post, that Bob Woodward was in charge of the White House communication network, that he was meeting regularly with Haig, and that he was part of the intelligence agencies which wanted to take Nixon out because he wanted to wind down the war in Vietnam, as well as establish friendly relations with both the Soviet Union and China. Again, I couldn't determine whether these allegations were true. I just found the arguments to be really fascinating. Probably one of the pivotal books is Silent Coup, The Removal of a President by Len Kolodny and Robert Getlin. As you can see, I had a lot of Post-it notes there. It really informed my work as I created this fictional world, because I wanted it to be believable. And so I am greatly indebted to Len Kolodny and Robert Getlin. Then we've got Mo, A Woman's View of Watergate. And one of the things that I just loved in this is that we even get a picture of Heidi Rieken, who in my book, I rename Heidi Scherzinger. So here we go. There's a picture of the real Heidi Rieken. You can see her in that black sable coat. Yeah. She looks really nice. Okay. And so you want another picture of the real Heidi Rieken? How about this? White House Call Girl, The Real Watergate Story by Phil Sanford. Shall we take a couple looks at good old Heidi? Okay. Here's Heidi in a bathing suit. Not bad. Not bad. Let's see. What other pictures might we have of Heidi? Oh, there's this picture of Heidi. Ooh. Yeah, Heidi was a stripper too. Let's see. Oh. Here's Heidi at the Blue Mirror. Okay. Don't worry, I won't show any naked pictures. I'll try to avoid the naked pictures. Oh, I just found a naked picture. But since this is YouTube, I can't show you the naked pictures. Just take it from me. She's a looker. Let's see. Do I got anything else? Anything else? Any other really good pictures here? Okay, let's see. Oh, there is one picture I do want to show you. Here's something I just love. So this is from the wedding of John and Maureen Dean, and the woman just to the left of John Dean is Heidi Rieken, who was one of the bridesmaids. So very interesting. The other thing that's kind of interesting in the Heidi Rieken story, as told by Phil Sanford, is the claim that Heidi Rieken was also involved with the mob. And so I was thinking to myself, oh my God, you mean I can write a book with gangsters, call girls, spooks, and politicians? I want to write that book. See, that's another reason why where writers get their ideas. We feel like, oh my God, are there stories that are just great that haven't been told? Okay, so now we have Washington Wives by Maureen Dean. Yes, yes. So in 1987, she decided she wanted to become something of a romance and political writer, and we've got Maureen's picture on the back. Doesn't she look so serious? Yes, she does. Okay, what else do we have? We have Secret Agenda, Watergate, Deep Throat, and the CIA by Jim Hogan. So, also a great book. And so, in the question of where writers get their ideas, well, we steal a lot from reality. Um, Ernest Hemingway was fond of saying that the reason his fiction was so realistic is because he'd worked for many years as a journalist. And I think that it's probably a good idea for any wannabe fiction writer to spend a good deal of time writing nonfiction. There are ways that people act in real life that should be reflected in fiction. And oftentimes, the way people act in real life is more interesting than the way they do in fiction. So, in summation, what is the life of a writer like? It's a lot of work. What else did I do today? Well, I'd set up a giveaway of 10 copies of my book with Kirkus Reviews. Kirkus Reviews sent me the list of the 10 winners of that competition. So I spent about 45 minutes at the UPS store sending those 10 copies out and writing, a little note to everybody. So, what's the life of a writer like? Well, it's just kind of like any other job. There's a bunch of stuff that you got to do. And then there's also a lot of really cool stuff that you get to do. But whatever you do, remember, do it well, do it with pride, and hopefully your efforts will be rewarded. Well, that's all I have for you today. Hopefully you've enjoyed this, but hopefully it's not the best part of your day. Hopefully the best part of your day is talking to real people and not just listening to some good looking dude on the internet. All right. Have a great day, everybody. Bye bye.